So you probably know the rule. I just try to keep the mic about a fist from my face.
Oh, I didn't know, but that's great to know.
Yeah. Just about a fist from your face, and then cool. You'll forget it's there after a while.
But can I look right there to see some kind of? Just in the middle.
Yeah,
the yellow
you
thing
see
in the middle.
So on the software.
Yeah.
This is the
Got
one
it.
you want getting up in the yellow, but not necessarily the red.
Got it.
If you can see that line, so like right now, we're perfect.
Okay.
And I've done this enough that I pretty much know where to set everything. So as long as you're keeping it about a fist from your face, it's going to pick everything up.
Boom.
All right, Dan.
All right.
You want to use last names?
If you like.
Dan Duval. Random story. First of all, thank you so much for hosting and inviting a complete stranger into your house, which is hilarious. His band was playing 2 weeks ago on a Thursday, I think. Mm-hmm. Was it 2 weeks ago? On a Thursday at Edgefield. And I was house and dog sitting for my daughter, which I do a lot. And they live in East Portland. And I just, I know there's lots of live music at Edgefield. So I was like, oh, I'm here alone. I had the day off. So I was like, I'll see who's playing there. And I love the gigs out by the Red Shed because it's just out in the patio, like an outdoor area. So I went and I saw you guys were playing. Randomly showed up. Sat front and center. I fought my way through the crowd and sat front and center. And so your band is you, your better half Chelsea, and then you have two other members.
Yeah, in fact, many of our gigs is only Chelsea and I as a duo.
Okay.
And related to budgets and simplicity of planning and scheduling.
Yeah.
But whenever we're able to do the full band, it's super exciting. So you saw us with a bass player and a drummer. Mm-hmm. And then Chelsea plays a lot of acoustic guitar and sings and plays some saxophone. And I'm mostly playing guitar. I play a little bit of synthesizer, but mostly.
I remember her doing a saxophone. That was actually really good. I was impressed.
She plays some flute too. So she has a degree in classical saxophone performance. And I have a degree in jazz guitar performance.
So you both have been doing the music thing since you were kids, I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start with that. Your origin story. First of all, did you grow up in the Oregon City area in Oregon, or?
No, I moved to Oregon in 2002.
Okay.
I grew up in the South Bay in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
My dad is a retired electrical engineer.
Okay.
So that's why they moved there in the 70s from Ohio.
Okay.
So I was raised by Ohio people, but in California. I was born in the early 80s, 1983.
Gosh, why am I'm getting tired of being older than everybody.
Well,
I was born in 72.
I mean, this is the year I turned 40, so it's the first year that I'm constantly noticing that I'm thinking and saying old people things, and that I have to consciously, I can't let those out. It's like you can forgive a few of them. You just turned 40, but stop saying everything's too expensive now. Stop saying I don't understand the music the kids like now.
Are you yelling at kids like, get
old.
off my lawn?
Exactly. I just hit that stage of life this year, precisely. So I'm trying to retrain myself. Those are thoughts to not verbalize.
No, embrace it.
And then maybe I'll stop having those thoughts and think about something.
Just embrace it. I hit 50 and I love it now. I kind of like it a lot, actually. With age comes wisdom, right? Isn't that what everybody says? And I really think it does. Life experience. I am a completely different and better person than I was at 40. I mean, even that 10 years, 11 years.
There's hope for me then.
Of course there is. But you're probably ahead of where I was at 40, even, when you just turned 40. I was screwing around I had a full-time DJ career going. So I was DJing around the area, Portland, Oregon City, even Salem and stuff. It was karaoke on the off nights. So Tuesday through Thursday would be karaoke nights. And then Friday and Saturdays, I had a regular actual DJ gig. But independent contractor, not paying taxes, doing all the stupid stuff and blowing money and just being dumb. And eventually it was my wife was like, okay, dude, you're over 40. You got to get a real job with benefits and everything. So ended up at Costco. Thank God. Best thing that ever happened to me. But go back to Bay Area. And then you said you moved here in 2002.
Yeah. So what happened is that I graduated from high school and I went to Boston for 2 years and studied at the Berklee College of Music there. And
so funny. Because everybody, you say Berkeley, they assume you're talking about California.
Correct. So there's another Berkeley, Berklee, not EY. No relation to UC Berkeley.
Yes.
And it's kind of a modern commercial music school, very established modern jazz school.
Commercial?
As well. I mean,
that was an interesting way of saying it. Is that how they advertise themselves?
It's certainly part of the Berklee brand is we prepare people for careers in today's music
Such
business.
as John Mayer went there. I know that.
Precisely, yeah. Susan Tedeschi went there. A friend of mine was a classmate of hers.
Oh, okay.
In the 80s.
Okay.
amazing environment. After 2 years on the East Coast, I was like, let's go back to the West Coast, but not to the Bay Area. So I came to Portland and got a jazz guitar degree at PSU.
So after 2 years at Berkeley in Boston, how did you land on Portland?
I wanted to return to the West Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and I came back for a summer to the Bay Area and was kind of like, this isn't where I want to land. I don't really want to return to where I grew up, and struggled to find something I wanted to fit into, I think, in the Bay Area. It's a tech place full of great engineering jobs, and it's one of the most expensive places in the world.
Yes.
And I like avant-garde music, and I'm a hippie, and I'm not an engineer.
And that was big in the 60s down there, I guess, right? But
yeah,
not so much in the 2000s.
It's interesting that, like, I associate the Bay Area's cultural history with Jack Kerouac partying in San Francisco in the 1950s and 60s, and all of the crazy acid heads in San Francisco in the 1960s and 70s. That's what I think of.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was like there was some hippie culture on the fringes, but mostly it was Silicon Valley.
That was when it started becoming tech, right?
Precisely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even in the 70s, late 70s, when my parents moved there, it was a hub for engineering. People were flocking there for
right.
jobs.
You said that was kind of why your dad moved there for work.
My parents, moved there from Ohio in 1977.
And you were born in 83? 83.
83, yeah.
Okay.
So I was born into a world of Van Halen and He-Man and Return of the Jedi.
All good stuff.
IBM, 386 computers and Star Trek: The Next Generation. A lot of good stuff. And then in the 90s was in high school, kind of a fish head into the psychedelic rock thing.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
When did you first pick up an instrument or decide? What was your inspiration? Like, you know what? I like music, or I want to play guitar.
I did take some piano when I was younger. And
I think everybody does.
Yeah, which is great. I think it should be
yes.
even more everybody, like in school, really everybody. That'd be
yes.
awesome. I think.
Yeah.
Helpful in so many ways.
Oh gosh, yes.
So I was in 6th or 7th grade when I started to kind of drift over to guitar. So it was in time that when I arrived in high school, I was like good enough to play in a garage band. And it was right at the time when like Pearl Jam was still on the radio and Green Day was still on the radio, but Britney Spears was right around the corner.
Oh, right. And NSYNC
So
and Backstreet Boys.
Yep. And like, I read this book, which I can't stop talking about. I read it like 7 or 8 months ago, but it's called How Music Got Free.
I haven't heard of it, but it's a good read.
It's a fascinating. I have read very few books about the music business, but that book was mind-blowing, tracing the changes in data storage technology which broke the record business.
Oh, you're
Because
talking about how
people-
everything went digital, like Napster and
before
all that.
there was like when re-recordable cassette tapes first came out, it rocked the industry.
Really?
And that was only a tiny tremor compared to things to come when LimeWire and Napster came along.
Yes.
And all this led to subscription-based monthly fees.
Such as
where
iTunes or
it's like,
Spotify or Amazon
obviously,
Music.
Once people have had access to this consumer behavior of just go online and stream the music, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No.
So they just had to make it legal with big evil companies like Spotify doing the licensing thing where it's like subscription fees and ad dollars come in and free streaming music for all goes out.
Right.
But the business model is already breaking and they're already removing titles from their database and upping the price.
Yeah.
Because it's not working.
Yeah. That's happening now.
I think if you believe music commentator Ted Gioia,
I haven't heard of him.
He's like the reason a lot of people flocked to Substack, including me.
Oh, okay.
So he was on Rick Beato's YouTube channel.
Okay.
Familiar with Rick?
No, I'm not, but
One of
I'm
the
familiar
very-
with Substack.
Yep. So Rick is one of the biggest music YouTube channels. He's like a young baby boomer who does all kinds of great videos, like What Makes This Song Great is one of his series. And
Okay.
he's a brilliant, awesome person, I think. Your mileage may vary with his personality, as is often the case on YouTube, but I think there's undeniably huge, huge value to his work.
To his content, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
okay.
a music appreciation channel, really.
Okay.
And he interviewed this writer, Ted Gioia, once, and on there, Ted was, I thought, brilliant, and he was like, Ted's on Substack. I follow him on Substack. You guys should. I had never heard of that platform until. I
Yeah.
think Ted Joy has been one of the hugest champions driving people to Substack,
Okay.
which is awesome. So
So again, now
Can't
let's go
remember
back
why
to
I
the
brought him up.
let's go back to the guitar thing. You said 6th grade, 7th grade, or something.
yeah, so like
But
in
then-
middle school. Yeah.
And did you just come home one day and say, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I want a guitar"? And
Well, I grew up with a hobby guitar,
okay.
with my dad playing kind of hobbyist rock guitar.
So your dad knew how to play.
So he would meet with his friends sometimes.
Was it acoustic or
It was-
electric?
He'd play electric guitar and
Okay.
they'd, jam in the living room, play rock covers. And
Okay.
stuff like
And
that.
then when you
So
actually
pretty casual stuff. But
when you got the bug, did you self-taught or did you get lessons?
I got lessons, and what was cool is that I was able to do some work pretty early on. Like my guitar teacher dragged me around to a couple weird places. We'd play at like a art and wine fair, outdoor market kind of thing. We'd set up with our acoustics there a
In
couple
the Bay
times.
Area.
Yep. And a couple of bars that I got to play at when I was like 7th or 8th grade.
That's
They
awesome.
don't have an OLCC in California. It's not as uptight,
And there is such a thing as a minor performer anyway. Even in Oregon, minor performers can perform, but when they're not performing, they have to get out, go to the
Yeah.
kitchen or something.
It's really bad for the scene, honestly, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's more reason for optimism than I realize about, because there's all these amazing young musicians actually have come up here in the last handful of years. Some really great young players have come from town and have bigger touring gigs now with hip hop artists and indie rock artists and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been really encouraging to see. I don't know where they come from.
Probably all over, I'm guessing. But you had this instructor for a while. He's taking you out to do random gigs like at the fair and stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
this
got
is
to
leading up to high school.
I got to do a bunch of like orchestra pits for other schools through like a family friend who was like
Orchestra
involved
pit.
in
I mean,
theater. So you'd go to like the school play would have like a little band playing.
But
for,
you
like,
would play in the band.
for like Grease or whatever.
Oh,
There'd
that's
be a little
awesome.
band and the kids are on stage. So
That is
some of my
cool.
earliest paid work was other schools. I had connections. This family friend of mine worked as the director for a lot of. She was kind of a roaming theater.
So you weren't
worker
even
for
necessarily
schools.
doing these gigs for your own school's play. It was other schools.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to be, and some
Heck yeah.
community centers and things like that. So
Okay.
that throughout high school, later in high school, had a few more opportunities to do that at a more professional level, where it was not
Okay.
so much just a school, but like a small theater, local theater putting on it.
And
hiring
then
other
in high
professionals.
school, your first band, classmates you met or people at different schools?
Totally. In fact, I'd like to shout out. They'll probably not listen to this, but
You can. I'll send you the link and you can share it. Well, you'll see it now that you like my channel, but send it to them.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Dave Richards, Brian Whelan, two of my best friends when I was a freshman in high school, and we had like a power trio and played
Okay.
all the covers from the charts of the day,
Yep.
And those guys are doing amazing things in music. By comparison, I am completely obscure.
That is so not true. I found you.
No, I mean, in all honesty, and I don't have negative feelings about that.
Yeah.
My life is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But those guys, like Dave, tours the world with Broadway shows, playing trumpet in the orchestra pits
Oh,
for
geez.
big Broadway shows.
Okay.
And Brian spent 5 years touring the world in Dwight Yoakam's band.
What
and
does he
lives
play?
in L.A., producing other people's records and plays all the rhythm section instruments. He's a great singer and producer.
He can do drums and
I
bass.
was lucky. Oh yeah, and piano and guitar. I was
Wow.
lucky enough to, when I was a freshman in high school, the guys I got to play in a garage band with turned out to be like amazingly accomplished professional musicians who are lifers in the business,
Working musicians.
Like,
Yeah, whether it's session artist or producing or
Yeah, and I'm aware that at different times, Brian, for example, has also painted houses.
right to make
But I
ends
think-
meet. Yeah.
Not for a long time now. And I've done other things from restaurants to real estate. Although right now I'm only teaching and playing gigs.
Teaching.
So just like you, like entering your 40s, not having a day job.
Yeah.
I'm entering my 40s. Right now I'm only doing creative things.
But the teaching is music teaching.
Yeah, we have a little music studio here, so
Mhm.
we teach families from the neighborhood.
That's awesome.
Nobody was using the name Oregon City School of Music, and so now we are.
You got it.
So we put that. The first thing we did was put that on Google Maps when we
Nice.
moved in here a couple years ago.
That is cool.
And we've done very little else in terms of promotion. So we have a nice, decent handful of students
Okay.
that we're trying to build it up a little bit,
Okay.
but we keep getting busy also with making soap and with playing a
Yes.
ton of gigs.
Yep.
Which is great. It's a nice variety.
Yeah.
Of
So
activities.
let's shout out for eventually I might have some listeners. Moon Music. Is that the
Yeah.
name of the entire band, or is it that your duo, or is
So
it
we've
just
been
everything?
we created this project called Moon Music
Mm-hmm.
based on we were going to go play a gig several years ago, like right before we were a couple, but soon before we were a couple. We were invited to play this full moon party at our friend's farm, and we were
Okay.
like, "This is gonna be awesome. We're gonna go play some moon music." And then years later, not that many years later, but we settled on that as the name of our new band after COVID.
Okay.
So right up until the shutdown, Chelsea and I were playing together in a band called Joy Tribe,
Okay.
and that's a band which she operated for about 10 years or so.
Okay.
And it was starting to get some traction. So when the lockdowns came along, we had the best yet year of gigs on the books, which
And
were
then-
all canceled.
Yeah. Yes. So you had a great tour lined up, and then,
It was
or
a-
not
a-
even a tour, but
Just
local gigs.
better regional gigs.
Yes.
Bigger
And then all of a
crowds, bigger
sudden
paychecks.
they said, no, you can't go outside.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the two things we were doing at that time, which was working in a seafood restaurant in
Mhm.
Southwest and playing in bands, all of a sudden,
God, that had to be a rough 2 years for you guys.
it was
Jesus.
a lot
Cheers
of,
to that,
you know,
man. I'm glad you made it through and came out stronger on the other
Yeah.
side.
yeah,
Oh.
things now are pretty good. So it's been fascinating to see Joy Tribe disintegrated because after the lockdown, certain people just were no longer in the same place in their life,
Right.
like ready to be in a working band.
So the two other band members that I saw you with weren't in Joy
No,
Joy
those-
Tribe?
No, yeah,
Okay.
those are not Joy Tribe members.
Okay.
Those guys are awesome people. John Shaw plays the bass in a band called Blue Cranes, which is
Okay.
like the most successful kind of avant-garde indie jazz band
Okay.
from Portland. They've been around for like 20 years.
Oh geez. Okay.
They're amazing. They've done a lot of interesting things. They did a tour on a train where they traveled from city to city on a train and also played in the train as one of their performances.
Like an Amtrak.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was grant-funded operation.
Yeah.
And then Steve Pantserev, the drummer, he's an old friend of mine from kind of more from the jazz universe.
Okay.
So when we play with him in that band, it's like a really different, weird thing. All the bands that Chelsea and I have played together in, Joy Tribe, and then before that, Midnight's Children, those were like funk bands with hard-hitting funk drummers.
Okay.
And now when we play with Steve on drums, he's doing this weird blobby jazzy stuff.
So I don't want to do too much. I don't want to get in the weeds on the technical stuff, but I did notice. It's just an opposite. I was like, were you even miking the bass drum when I saw you? It wasn't a pronounced. I didn't hear like a big subwoofer with a kick drum.
I think to some degree that's Steve's equipment and vibe, and
Yeah,
just
no,
playing.
it sounded great. I
And
just
also-
noticed it.
who knows what in terms of the sound guy. I don't have any complaints about the sound at the
No, I thought you
place.
sounded great. I just did make I was like, wow, there's not that chest
Yeah.
pounding kick drum.
I think that is more likely coming from that Steve's a jazz drummer. He went
Mhm.
to Berkeley as well, Berkeley
Okay.
College of Music, like in
Okay.
the 80s, and had a few famous classmates who he played on recitals
Oh,
with.
wow.
Have
Okay.
gone on to become big names in the jazz world.
Jeez.
Kurt
Okay.
Rosenwinkel.
So first band in high school. How long did that? And did you guys actually stay together for a couple of years and book gigs?
Not really. I mean, we all went in different directions after high school.
Mhm.
Brian went straight to LA because he knew he wanted to do the LA rock
Okay.
pop thing. I went to Boston because
Berkeley.
a great friend of mine was like a hero of mine. My friend Graham Richards, another shout out there.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Richards' older brother. So I
Okay.
was playing in this garage band with Brian and Dave, and found out that Dave's older brother Graham is like the world's most incredible piano player and plays in all these weird, awesome bands. And then he
Wow.
went to this school in Boston called Berkeley College of Music.
That's how you
And I was
learned
like,
about.
I want to go there.
But
That
that's how you
sounds
learned about
amazing.
Berkeley.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
didn't apply to a single other college or investigate a single other
What
college.
was the? You know what's funny?
Graham
we-
was like a beacon to me. It's like, go that direction.
So back when you went to it, I'm just remembering this now. What was the application process like? Did you have to send them demo tapes? Was there an interview?
No, infamously, it was a period when they let in anyone who would pay.
I'm sure you would have made it anyway, but it was pretty easy to get in.
Well, at that time, it was like they were letting in a lot of people who their dropout rate after the first year was very high because they were not very selective about who came in. So a lot of people during their first year were like, whoa, I'm in way over my head here, and then didn't come back.
Okay.
So I don't feel too bad that I stuck it out through 2 years at least.
Oh, that's awesome.
And when you talk to people like my friend Graham, who spent 5 years there and got a double major, he talks to people about it and they're like, whoa, you actually finished there? That's like, kind of the reputation the school has.
That's kind of the exception.
And as you climb up, it's true, you encounter these materials and professors who will just blow your mind and make you work insanely hard. And at some point you're like, my feeling after 2 years there was like, I have this like huge pile of information I'm not able to use yet. I don't really need to add to this pile of information right now.
Like, I see what you're saying. If I stay here,
I'm already overwhelmed in music information. I don't need to collect more.
Okay. Yeah. Because then it's just all going to get lost.
Yeah, and I also have a lot of other interests. I mean, I picked up a philosophy minor when I went to PSU.
Oh.
And I at some point I was like, maybe screw this music degree and let's get a philosophy degree maybe.
That's
but
right.
I ended up with a music degree with a philosophy
You
minor.
finished the music degree at PSU, but you also studied philosophy there.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was, you said you came to Portland in 2002?
Yep, and I got my degree in 2006.
Okay.
So by the time I did get that degree, it was 6 years after I started college.
Okay.
And in my defense, I will say that...
There's no defense, you're fine. People spend 10 years and get a bachelor's. I mean...
Well, during that last year, I was only waiting for one class I needed to be offered again. At the end of year number 5, I had completed everything except for the spring term of music history that you had to get a B in, that I got a C in.
You had to
they
retake
didn't offer again until the next spring.
Oh, geez.
So
you
I
had
did
to wait.
fall term, nothing. Winter term, nothing. Spring
Okay.
term, one class.
Okay.
So I could get my degree.
So your time at PSU, were you also at the same time in some bands in the area?
Yeah, in fact, that I would say, I had never been paid money to play a jazz gig until I was in Portland after like 2002, 2003.
Okay.
Starting to meet people through the college and go to jam sessions and start to make some friends and get called for a couple of like jazz casual type of gigs. Those have become quite rare, but it's like, we need wallpaper music for this event, so let's hire a
Background
jazz
music.
combo in the corner playing mellow
just instrumental
jazz. Exactly. And the whole thing for students of music, it's like you go there and you play the standards and you get to improvise together with these other musicians that you never rehearsed with. That's the type of work that it was.
Okay.
And those gigs are not ubiquitous now.
So you were making some money, but you also get experience improvising with other musicians. So that's good, right?
Yeah, and sometimes great musicians who,
Yeah.
like, even though it's just background music, they're playing super artfully and you're soaking up some
But
of
you don't
their
have a set list. You guys can
wisdom
do
and
whatever you
stuff,
want.
and- yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that was already 2002 when I was, say, 2005 or 6 when college was ending. There was still some of those gigs, but, that part of the music economy was fading, I think.
Even then.
And again, the technology, like if you could either pay a band $500 or $1,000 or you could grab your iPod.
Right. Yeah. I can relate to that because of the DJ thing. I wasn't just in the clubs, but I also would do event things like weddings, corporate gigs, reunions, high school reunions. Oh my God. How many times did I have the conversation with a bride and groom to be? So can I just give you like $200 or I can just play music off my phone? And I'm like, yeah, it's your wedding day. There's a little more to it, but okay. So no, I've turned down so many gigs. I'm like, no, you know how many hours of time I put in and I also end up being the MC because usually there's not a wedding planner there. So I have to keep everything on schedule and keep it running and yada, yada, yada. But
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. But so what you're saying though, is the streaming thing really changed everything. I'm assuming that's kind of why now bands have to make money on touring. That's why ticket prices are so expensive because nobody buys albums anymore. Right.
The weird thing is that there is a vinyl resurgence among certain consumers.
Yes.
And many of them buy the vinyl and do not own a record player, and they spend time with the vinyl artwork while listening to the music on streaming.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't get it.
I don't either, because
I'm old and I don't get it.
We're not judging. No, he just had an old moment. But I do. Me and my wife specifically made a point to get an actual record player It's a modern one you can get on Amazon that's designed to look like an old school console,
Yeah.
but it also has a CD player and you can I think Bluetooth it, but it also has an actual record player. And between both of our parents, my mom and her mom, we have this amazing, incredible collection of actual friggin' records. So we can sit and it. I guess I'm old enough; it's nostalgic for me. I kind of enjoy listening to a record.
Hmm. I can relate. I feel a bit that way with cassettes as well.
I don't have any cassettes, and I don't have a cassette player. Um, Gosh, that brings back memories too.
The
Um,
business, though, if you look at, for example, Bandcamp, are you aware
Mhm.
of the website, the music website Bandcamp?
I've heard of it, but is that a production software?
No, it's
It's
actually
not like Pro Tools.
it's no. It's a really interesting alternative business model for music distribution that's quite big because artists basically can sell things directly to their fans, and Bandcamp takes a small percent, and that is all of Bandcamp's revenue, and they don't do any of this other weird Spotify-y
So it kind
stuff.
of
There's no ad-supported tier. There's no
okay.
subscription dollars changing hands. It's just fans paying for things.
So Bandcamp takes what they need to run the business.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's no middleman.
So it's even better than that. You can use Bandcamp to post. You can upload your music there for free.
Mhm.
The artist pays $0, and you can have it be something people can listen to for free without paying. So those people are getting free hosting that's paid for by other
Oh, geez.
fans paying.
But if you upload your music for free, and if you want to set a price on it, people might buy it. Bandcamp takes a small cut, but then that's how the band makes money.
Exactly. It's very fair. They take something like, I don't know, 15% maybe. Like
Okay.
so the artist keeping like 85% of their sales is like unheard of in the music business.
Yes, especially with streaming.
Yeah.
Rogan talked about this.
Yeah.
I think it was Courtney Love that wrote this article, and I was on Rolling Stone, but she broke down on a pie chart like where the money from that $1.99 iTunes purchase goes, and the actual artist gets like a cent.
It's pathetic. Yeah. So Bandcamp is really neat because what's turned out to happen that I'm somewhat surprised by, and thank you Ted Joya for writing about this, so I know about it. Again, Ted Joya.
I'll look him up. I'll look him up.
It's a lot of physical merch being sold on Bandcamp, like more than streams and downloads. So you can
Okay.
go on there and, as an artist, you can be like, here's my album. It's $10 to download the album. The first 2 songs are free to stream. And then I've also got on my page, you can go order an LP and you can order a t-shirt and I'll ship it to you. And it's all handled through Bandcamp. And they're making
but the
a
band
lot
themselves
more money.
are handling that. Like they get the order, they
Yeah.
ship it out.
Yep.
Yes.
So bands use it, record labels use it, and there are more physical merch dollars going through that system than pay to download dollars.
Okay.
Even though there's something I love about the system, like I go in there as a fan and I click on thumbnails to listen. I'm like, cool, let's try this out and listen to it. Use it for music discovery.
Yeah.
And then if I like something, I click on the little heart to put it in my wish list.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I've got it in there, and once in a while I'll be like, let's listen to something from my wish list. And
Okay.
it's like at a certain point when I'm listening to it for like the 5th time, then a little pop-up comes up that says, the time has come to open thy heart/wallet.
Oh, right.
And it's like, you've used up your free chances. If you want to continue to listen to this, please pay now.
Yeah.
Which I think is very fair.
Oh, it's
That doesn't-
absolutely fair. Seriously, it is. Because
And-
if you are clicking on it more than 5 times, you should pay the artist
And
for
the
it.
system works. There's times that, I'm a self-employed freelance person, but if my budget was a little more robust, I would pay $10 for an album there a lot more often.
Right.
And the times that I do, it's because the system works. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to listen to that, but I've used up my free plays. Okay, I'll give you the $10 for your album.
Yes. Yeah, it's totally fair.
It's pretty awesome.
Okay. Finish up at PSU, did the jazz things. After you're done with college, got your degree, did you go out and try to actually get like a day job in philosophy, or were you just focused on music after college?
I've had an endless string of different food and drink related jobs on the side.
Oh, in the service industry.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I've done a combination of teaching students, working in the service industry, and playing gigs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of times when I've been shifting my focus depending on the situation. Like
Okay.
there's
You're adaptable.
been periods where I've been like, I'm gonna just try to teach a whole bunch more lessons right now. And other periods that I've been like, I want to avoid teaching and just have my service industry gig on the side and play some gigs with
Okay.
bands that I like. And then even periods of like being really busy working in a restaurant and not doing much music at all.
Right.
Especially when my kid was like a newborn, you know.
Oh, how
So,
old?
My daughter will be 7 this
Oh,
December.
that's the best.
Yeah.
This will tell you how old I am. My daughter is 31.
That's awesome.
Daughters are amazing, though.
You got started young.
19. Yes.
Wow.
Totally planned. I've told this story before. It's funny, though. Freshman year of college, met her mom. I lost my virginity and became a father on my 19th birthday. That's a great story.
off to a good start with your adult
Yes.
life there. It's great.
So yes, the service industry, and then I don't know. I'll keep an eye on the clock.
Oh,
but,
I'll look too.
But
Thank you.
at what point did you meet Chelsea?
We played in a whole bunch of different bands.
So you met her
even
obviously
before we were
before you
together.
became
Yeah.
romantic, right?
I mean, we both were involved in other situations. that
okay,
we've
but
been-
is she from the Portland area?
She grew up in the area. She was born in the Portland area. When she
Okay.
was little, she moved to Memphis. Her parents moved to the south for some
Wow,
period of time, and then
Beale
back.
Street.
Right, and then I never saw that film actually. Were you
Oh,
referring to a film there?
No, I was referring to Walking in Memphis, that
Oh,
song, because
oh.
he mentions, walking with my feet 10 feet off a Beale.
Nice. I don't know that one.
Mark Cohen. You don't
There's
know that?
strange gaps in
if
my
you
knowledge
heard
of-
it, you would know it. I guarantee you
bet,
would know
I
it.
bet.
Everybody knows that gosh damn song.
No, what's really fascinating is that then, after living in some different places, and Chelsea was in grade school, and they were living in the area here in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Her parents, when she was like 10, they moved to a cabin in the woods in the super remote wilderness, like way up in extreme northeastern Washington near Canada. In a
Oh,
very
up
remote-
above Spokane.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
So they were doing off-grid living. They bought a bunch of acreage with a cabin on it that was a single room
Which
when
actually
they bought it.
sounds amazing,
It
but
was
yes.
amazing. It was like, let's get out at, I think partially it was like she just wants to watch TV and go to the mall, so let's like get away from living that way.
So at that
And
point,
Ken, her dad, I think.
what's her dad's name?
Ken is
Ken?
Ken Luker is.
That's hilarious.
yeah.
Obviously, I'm Ken. Okay.
Yeah. He's a musician as well, and he's also, I think, really into the woods and nature,
Mhm.
and
Outdoors guy.
he lives in Eugene now, in
Okay.
like the suburbs, but I feel like he wouldn't mind living in the woods again.
Oh, of course. That's something that never goes away.
So by the time like high school was coming and she was getting really into music and saxophone, they moved to Spokane so she could be around more music opportunity. But in between there, from Chelsea's age of like 10 to
She
high
was
school,
in the sticks.
they were out in the woods in the middle
Okay.
of nowhere. She was riding the bus an hour each way in the snow
Oh my
to and
God.
from school. It
Yeah.
was crazy and awesome. Like a lot of the good qualities she has that I don't. I come from that time, I think, because I was just in the suburbs the whole time, just
Yeah.
watching TV.
But
and
high
shit.
school age, she went to Spokane, a school in Spokane.
Yeah, yeah.
And then how did she end up in Portland or back to Portland?
Chelsea went to college in Florida
Mhm.
and got a music degree there, and then moved with her boyfriend at the time, and they were playing in a band together called Mars Retrieval Unit,
Okay.
which also was a band for about 20 years until recently.
Seriously?
And even like the band broke up when they broke up, but then after that the band was together off and on again for various different periods of time.
Wow.
Although now it's over now, but the band has officially been disassembled at this
Yes,
point.
they retired.
Yeah. But they moved to the West Coast together back. And, I think when they came across the country, they were went through Chicago and were like, this is cool. Maybe we should stay here. But I think they were, Chelsea's family is here.
Cold winters.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so she
so-
came back to this area and she's been here ever since.
Pretty
What year
much,
was
yeah.
that when she got back to Portland?
Oh, it must have been about 2007 or
So,
so.
so a little
2005
right
or
after
6
right
maybe?
after you finished PSU.
She was. We both graduated from high school in 2000, and I think that she did finish college like a normal person in 2004.
Yeah.
And then maybe 1 or 2 years after that is when they arrived
Okay.
out here.
Okay.
So, but I never knew Chelsea really hardly at all until at least 2017 or something like that.
Okay, and that was in the music scene. Just met her when she was in a
Yeah, so
band, a different band, or
there's a band called Midnight's Children, which no longer exists, but it's named after a Salman Rushdie novel. You ever read anything by him?
I have not, but I know who he is.
Amazing
Okay,
author, highly recommend.
yeah,
And
I've heard him talk on podcasts, of course.
oh, cool,
But
really interesting person, yeah.
yeah,
And the drummer, I started that band with a drummer friend of mine who no longer lives here. He moved away for a music therapy job, but we started this kind of funk and soul band. It was inspired by Wolfpack, in fact. Do you know the band
no,
Wolfpack?
mm-mm.
They were kind of one of the first bands to get really big on YouTube. But they also, the
Oh.
first thing that got them in the news was this album they put out called Sleepify,
Okay,
which was 10 songs that were all 3 seconds of silence. And they said, please put this on repeat while you sleep at night to all of their fans. And it racked up so many streams that it brought them in $20,000.
but it was
they
literally.
spent that money on a tour where it was free shows for their fans for a tour.
Oh my gosh!
So it was it was one of the things that put them on the map was that there were articles about Sleepify because it was using the new game for their own benefit, and it was
But it
also
funded their
hacking
tour.
the system a little bit
Yes.
and exploiting a weakness in the system.
Oh my
And
gosh!
since then, in fact, Spotify will not let, like, they changed their requirements and no longer will let you upload an album of 10 songs of 3 seconds of silence. So then that band Wolfpack got really big on YouTube and have these great kind of like bedroom recording looking type of very casual videos that are very charming. And
Okay.
they got really big with those, and they seemed to have a bit of a rotating cast. And my friend
Okay.
Tom and I, when we first were starting a band together, were like, maybe we should try to use that model of like, maybe we can be like a rhythm section that we have different singers depending on the show or whatever. Although then our friend Chuck Barber came on board and kind of took over, and he kind of like was like, I love this. This is my band now. And he was a pretty good percussionist and decent singer, so we kind of let him take over.
Okay.
And then we had Chelsea came in. We brought Chelsea into that, and that was the first time I'd really spoken with her and worked with her in a band.
Okay.
And
But so, and then at some point, when did you guys? I forgot you. Did you and her start Moon Music because of that band that event that was Under the Moon?
I mean, that was kind of where the name came from. And
But
also,
were you already performing together?
yeah, so after Midnight's Children is when at some point she said, hey, do you want to sub for my band Joy Tribe?
Okay.
And I came in, and they were a quite established band. And then I was added somewhat later. You know, the keyboard player left, and I came on board as a band member. So instead of guitar and keyboard, the other guitar player stayed, and I came on. We had 2 guitar. Joy
Okay.
Tribe, which was a great time. That guitar player, Eric, is still a close friend, amazing person. He's a music therapist also and has a family. So
Okay.
he's not really playing in bands right now. But
Music therapist.
yeah,
I think I know what you mean, but describe it.
it's actually a newer field that you can go get a degree in it.
Okay.
And you can work in a hospital providing music therapy to patients.
Okay.
And you can have a private practice where your clients can pay you with their insurance.
Okay.
So, and to be honest, I believe in it. And if I ever did get a degree again, it might be in that.
I mean,
In my own
the healing
personal-
power of music. I mean,
100%.
we already knew that, didn't we? It's about time you can
For
get a degree in it.
For eons, right?
Yes. I mean, there's a reason this stuff works. I mean, music, no matter what it is, it's gonna evoke emotions. You know,
Yeah.
it can make you happy. It can make you sad. It can amp you up. It can chill you out.
It's used for memory care and for the very elderly.
Oh my gosh,
And it's
yes.
used in, you know, for therapeutic reasons for addicts and things like
Mhm.
that. So my friend works at the hospital working with former recovering addicts. And things
Okay,
like that.
so it kind of helps them, maybe helps them focus and stop thinking about where they're gonna get their next fix, kind of a thing.
I don't know. I would love to know more about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it occupies you in a positive way, as you're saying.
Yes.
And it's also a channel to release things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and for me, the value of the cathartic release of music is definitely something that I'm a more functional person because of that.
Do you have it's so funny because I picked up again, it's not about me, but just to relate, that same freshman year of college, my random roommate, I went to Western Oregon University in Monmouth, and I didn't pick my roommate in the freshman dorm, but it happened to be Jason Moore, who is like a guitar virtuoso. He went to Lake Ridge High School in Lake Oswego, and he just randomly was my roommate. So my entire freshman year, he started teaching me electric guitar, and then I kind of dropped guitar for 30 or 40 years. My mother had bought me an acoustic guitar like 12 or 13 years ago for my birthday because she knew I had an interest in it, but I just, with life happening, I never focused. Pandemic, lots of free time. I picked it up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to freaking do this. Because I remembered from what I learned from Jason, the basic chords, the 4 freaking chords that every pop song is, G, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then I just started finding, but by this age, I was more interested in acoustic stuff than electric. Singer, songwriter, campfire crap.
I love it.
And I just started finding YouTube videos because, like, I know the chords. I don't know music theory. I can't read music, but I was like, show me the chords that he's using to play that song, and so I'm self-taught. And then 3 years, more than 3 years later, like I played my first. I didn't play a gig. I have a friend who's a singer who's like she does acoustic sets all over in the Vancouver area, even in Portland. I went to see her, and she took her break in the middle of her set, and she comes over. She goes, "Do you want to play a couple?" And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Which it was the perfect way to do it my first time performing in front of people because I didn't know it was going to happen. So I went up and just did 2 songs, sang and played, and I was like, I think I've done it now. And now I'm just going crazy about it. I forgot where I was going with this.
Was it therapeutic?
Oh God, that's what I was talking about. And so before I went on that whole explanation, my poor wife, God bless her, it's gotten to the point over the last 3 years where it's like, and it's a joke with our friend circle. Like every time we go out, I will just throw my guitar in the vehicle. If we go out to a tap room or something or a winery, I might just grab my guitar and just sit there while everybody's visiting, and I'll visit, but I'm just gonna grab my guitar and start plucking. And they had to listen to 3 years of me, but when I sucked, and now I can actually like play and sing a song you'd recognize. But I was gonna say, have you always felt you have music in your head, like all the friggin' time? That's probably why I was a DJ for a while. But have you always been that way?
Oh, what's in my head all the time? That's a good question.
Well, let's go down that hole.
Oh my God, you couldn't handle it. No. No, it's like there's that element to being a musician where you have this like, just how with the English language you have like an inner monologue, and like in music you also kind of have that inner monologue, melodic inner monologue or something like that.
That's funny you mention that because I do talk to myself all the time, and I have music in my head all the time.
Mm-hmm. And then it's like, I don't know. I only know, like in terms of internal experience, I only know me because
that's what I want to hear about.
Never been anyone else. So
right.
I know that in here it's like not necessarily that I like hear that like my music imagination flares up and then I try to do what it did. It's more like you study and experience a lot of different sounds and combinations of sounds and then contemplate what you like about them and what you don't like about whatever music, however different kinds of music strike you.
Yeah.
What you do want to sound like, what you want to avoid sounding like, and trying to combine those things into something that is like worth capturing, which I think is the harder thing. Like when I was younger, say in my 20s mostly, it felt very easy to like obsess over a composition.
Okay.
And the albums that I've put out that have like complicated jazz compositions, which I wrote, are from that period of my life when I felt okay investing that time, neglecting other things to obsess over those things.
You maybe had less responsibilities back then.
And that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's also that I believed it was worth the effort to capture it, that there's some youthful, naive, or egotistical qualities of that frame of mind where you're like, I'm an important, awesome musician, and my ideas are so cool. It's worth it to ignore everything else to capture these ideas.
Yes.
People will be lucky to have them presented to them if we can get it right.
Yeah.
It'll move people and they'll appreciate it. And if you believe that's true and put in some work, then that can kind of become true, I think.
Absolutely. You're manifesting your destiny, kind
And
of.
if you put in the labor and go through the process of work on creating something, reflect on it, try to improve it, like that's kind of what the work is.
Mm-hmm.
And just like if you watch them make a movie, there's going to be a director saying action, cut, take 2, because take 1 wasn't good enough. You know?
Right.
So like it's basically that process in any art.
Yeah.
Try again. Not good enough. Try again forever until you're like, well, this is good enough to share with somebody.
Yeah.
And that's what is harder, I find. The older I get, the busier I get, being a parent, having other responsibilities, but also just not caring as much, being like, oh, that was cool. Instead of like when I was young and was like, that was cool, let's work to capture it. It's more just like, all right, that was cool.
So not being so precious about
Why would
everything.
I try to capture it? It's like
I think
you
I
can't
see.
really capture anything anyway.
Okay. And not holding on to any one thing and like, oh my God, if I don't deal with this right now, I'm going to lose it. And
Yeah. So I have to remind myself, which I'm trying to revive the habit of, like, if I'm in the office playing guitar and I'm like, oh, that's cool, I like that. Go to my laptop and hit record.
Yes.
And play
It's
it again.
so easy now.
And then right away email it to Chelsea and be like, hey, this is a cool thing I played today. Do you want to try to write some words
I just got
on
this
thing?
chord progression, or I got this riff.
That's
What
exactly
do you think?
it. So like we have a new song we started working on that came out that way, that I'm like, oh, I need to be doing that regularly. Like,
Yeah.
you know, put in the effort to act like I believe it's worth capturing if I want to have an output of things that I write and then record, and then maybe can bring in licensing dollars from them. Like, that's the great game to be in.
So
right?
act as if, and it becomes reality.
There's a lot to that, I think.
There totally is.
Yeah.
It is 6:33. So I didn't know you said an hour.
You want to go for another 10 minutes or so?
I was going to say, do you want to cut it off at 6:45?
It's fun talking to you. 6:45.
Ditto. Does that work for you? Because I know you have to make dinner.
I think we started at like 6:43 or something.
5:43.
Setting up or
like 5:43.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, but I just want to respect your time. But there is a couple of things I want to make sure we get into this episode.
Great.
And it's fun stuff. It's not really. It's curious questions from an amateur musician.
Cool.
What is your opinion on Nickelback? Most hated band in the world.
I couldn't identify their music or pick it out of a lineup. I don't know it.
Seriously?
I don't know the first thing about it.
Really?
I know I'm supposed to hate them. The internet tells me that.
Thank you for acknowledging that. That's all I was going with there. Is for a while, for 20 years, they have been the most hated band in the world for no gosh damn reason. It's softening now. In fact, they just made a documentary that's going to be released soon called, I think it's like Love to Hate instead of Hate to Love, or no, Hate to Love. That's what it is. So I hate that I love you. I'm sorry, for over 20 years, all they did, yes, it's cookie cutter. All they did was write hit songs. And by the way, it's not easy writing hit songs.
I haven't done it.
But they write hit songs, and it got really bad for a long time. You know, they were kind of compared to like Creed took a nosedive in the 90s, or after the 90s. They were big, quick, and then everybody hated them.
I remember that.
Yeah. For a while, and even one of my favorite bands is Def Leppard. Like Joe Elliott's talked about, if you get big enough, every band goes through a cycle where you're the most hated band in the world.
Makes sense.
And I had this when I have to defend Nickelback because I like them. I'm like, look, if everything was groundbreaking, nothing would be groundbreaking. You need cookie cutter top songs to distinguish what the like groundbreaking, amazing artists are doing. You know what I mean? But I also it's a guilty pleasure.
Do you remember an artist named Matthew Sweet? He had a song that goes, "I'm sick of myself when I look at you."
Matthew Sweet
Something
sounds very familiar, but
beautiful
wasn't there also a
and
band called
true.
Sweet?
Maybe
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
But Matthew Sweet had an album in the 90s called 100% Fun, which had that song "Sick of Myself." And what you're talking about makes me think of it. I love that album. I think it's a great, very easally digestible rock and roll album.
So that's the genre. It's rock.
Yeah, and
okay.
it's not very strange or groundbreaking in any way, but I think he played every instrument. It's a one-person thing.
Okay.
They're good songs. They're simple songs.
They're catchy.
They're presented in a straightforward way,
It's
but
got
they
a
have
hook.
substance and humanity to them. I think it's great. I love it. I used to bartend downtown and put it on all the time, and it was great. Great music. for the
Heck
bar.
yeah, Matthew Sweet.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll have to look that up now. So yeah, we covered the Nickelback thing. Um, Moon Music, you guys are still doing duet. Or, sorry, not
Oh
duet.
yeah, let me fill you in a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
more on.
Well, your current project. Yeah.
I said moron. Sorry.
More on is what you said, but I got it.
So like Chelsea and I left our partners to be together like 5 months before COVID lockdowns.
Okay.
So that happened, and we were working this crazy restaurant schedule, playing all these gigs.
You were both in the service industry when the pandemic hit?
Yeah,
Oh shit! So you lost your jobs or were laid off? I'm assuming.
absolutely.
Oh
Yep.
god.
So, and then like lockdown came, and it was like, we're paying you to stay home, and
Right.
nobody knew what was going to happen, and we were starting to talk a little more about playing other music more, and realizing as the months went on that the band that existed before was not going to continue to exist.
Okay.
As time went on, that became more and more clear.
The other members, just their
Just
their
going
life was
different
changing.
directions,
Yes. Yeah.
And so Chelsea, at some point when we were going to be hired to play at that full moon party at the farm.
Yep.
She was basically like, I have this set of songs that I play acoustic guitar and sing, and it's like my solo act. And why don't we just do that? But
Original songs.
A lot of covers and some original songs.
Okay.
And it was like, why don't we do the version of that where you are there playing guitar, playing those songs with me? She'd done that as a duo with Eric, the guitar player from Joy Tribe. The other
Okay.
guy.
And she
And it
would
was a
do
great-
she would do acoustic, and would you also do acoustic or electric?
I would do electric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you were the lead kind of, and she was
Yeah.
rhythm.
Yeah, and she'd had a great time doing that on 1 or 2 gigs as a duo with our friend Eric.
Mhm.
And then when lockdown came and we were home together all the time, it was like, at some point it was like, let's start putting some effort into developing like our version of that. But we also had like the desire to play loud psychedelic rock too. So we
Okay.
ended up, during COVID, I got this thing called a pocket operator, which is a little analog synth drum machine.
Okay.
Which we've been using on certain parts of our set when we're a duo. You haven't seen this because you only saw the full band, but
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some stuff in the duo where I go to the synthesizer and play synth bass
Mhm.
and turn on the drum machine thing. So in our
So
duo,
you can play it through the PA.
Yep.
Okay.
So in our duo, we have this kind of version of like full band sounds.
That's awesome.
with
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
like,
Yep.
weird drum machine stuff that has some sound effects on it. And
Yeah.
a synthesizer that has some really nice sounds.
Okay.
And I don't have great keyboard chops, but I can do enough to make some interesting things
But
happen.
you have that drum rhythm going, but then you play the keyboard over the top of it. And,
Exactly.
Okay.
So we get a fuller kind of thing going on.
Heck
So
yeah.
that was one of the experiments that came out of being stuck at home during the COVID times and never playing with a drummer. At some point, it was like, I want to get some kind of piece of fun technology to provide a beat.
So as stressful as it must have been, it sounds like you guys did take advantage of the opportunity when you had that 2 years of downtime.
And honestly, it was not the like the case of like, oh, you have so much free time, how nice for your creativity. For some people maybe it was like that, but not for us. It was more like very depressed and hard to find.
I was gonna
reason
say,
why
it's
to,
like,
where.
We're gonna go out of our minds if we don't do something, kind of a thing.
Well, no, it was more that I didn't have any motivation. I think we both struggled to have any motivation to play because none of the normal rewards were available.
Yeah.
Like connecting with people.
You don't have an audience.
Yeah. And for some people, they were just practicing and shedding and writing songs and recording and stuff. But fewer people were doing that than you might think. Because a lot of musicians were like, a lot of people quit music during that time.
Oh, it's so sad.
A lot of people went into other fields or, So for us, we had to climb out of that feeling of why try music activities? Why am I trying this? So during that same time, I got a real estate license. Chelsea started making soap.
Okay.
I've since decided to let my real estate license expire. It will expire this January, but I have ceased paying any operating expenses and done the deals, did a handful of deals during the last few years, and I'm like, all right, well, let's put that behind us.
Okay.
And,
Chelsea's making soap, so the Fight Club reference, is she using fat from plastic surgery?
I wish. The fat thing is really interesting with the soap, because what she uses is a blend of, for most of the things, is a blend of coconut oil, olive oil, and palm oil.
Okay.
And she gets these people who come up and say, aren't you aware that palm oil is related to deforestation and that the chimpanzees are dying because of you, you horrible woman?
Is this true?
And
I
there's
don't think it is, but
some potential tangential truth in certain cases to that.
right.
But she just, within the last week or two, told me, I finally officially went to the kind of guaranteed monkey safe
Yes.
palm oil, or whatever no primates were harmed.
Say that sentence again. Monkey safe palm oil.
Yeah. Like, there's no deforesting the
Yes.
home of a valuable species for
Yeah.
this palm oil, apparently.
And did she just learn that during the pandemic?
She has a close friend who taught her to make soap, who
Oh my
lives in
gosh.
the Spokane area and
That's
operates
awesome.
a similar sideline. But Chelsea's put it much more front and center. Like, she's basically like, well, I used to do a restaurant job plus lessons and gigs.
Mm-hmm.
What if now I do a soap booth at the market plus lessons and gigs? And it's worked. She's been busy enough
so
that I'm helping out a little more.
So she'll do a booth at like the farmers market and
Every Saturday, Portland Saturday Market downtown.
Yep.
Every Sunday, Milwaukee Farmers Market in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's super
I
cool.
love that market. I go there every chance I get and walk around. All summer we've been eating only food from the Milwaukee Farmers Market and not buying produce or meat at the store
That's
as little as
awesome.
possible. Mostly market.
Is it downtown Milwaukee? Where's it at?
Yeah, it's in a parking lot that's right across the street from that Riverside Park.
Yes. Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Right next
okay.
to Grandma's Corner Restaurant.
Yes. Yes.
You know that.
I do. Well, because again,
love
that
Milwaukee.
there used to be, if you go up 99 McLaughlin through there, right past downtown, there's like the big industrial area on the left side if you're going north, and on the right side, I don't know what it is now, but there used to be a movie theater there, the Southgate. That is where I saw the first Star Wars
Nice.
in the theater, and there was a gosh damn line around the building to get in. So I know Milwaukee very well. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here. This has been amazing. I do have to do
So
this.
fun.
A quick little. You didn't listen to all of my podcasts, but it's a running joke. My daughter's 31. She also has her own podcast, and I helped her start it. On her 30th birthday, we recorded her first episode. It was just me and her. We were in Central Oregon. Her grandparents have an awesome house, cabin out there. And since I have all the technical audio stuff, I helped her with that side. Her little brother is a tech guy, so he is the one that found the software that we can use, and he actually was in the background on that first episode. But it was just me and her for about a half an hour recording the first episode, and then as she kept developing it, I kept helping her until she eventually bought like microphones and she has her own mixer. But for the first 10 or 20 episodes, I was a frequent guest, and I would always, because I'm a huge Kenny Chesney fan and I'm a huge Tom Brady fan, obviously Kenny Chesney, so I would always give shout outs on the podcast and say, oh, No Shoes Nation, Tom Brady rules, Kenny Chesney is the man. She would edit them out. So now that I have my own podcast, every episode I shout out Kenny Chesney, Tom Brady, No Shoes Nation, and I leave it in there just to irritate her. And it doesn't really
That's
irritate
great.
her, but I have to.
None of those names are familiar to me. I'm aware.
I actually like that.
I'm aware that Tom Brady is involved in football.
Yeah, he
That's the
retired.
extent of my
He's like
knowledge.
the greatest quarterback in the history of football.
And then Kenny Chesney appears to be a country singer.
He is a country artist, yes. I'm a fanatic. It's terrible.
Cool.
But he's awesome. I actually kind of like the fact that you don't know Nickelback songs and you don't know Kenny Chesney songs.
I'm in my own strange
I
world.
no,
over
but I
here, man.
kind of like that. That's what's refreshing, and that's why I do this podcast. And I don't know if you listened to the two I sent you. If you listened to the genesis of why I started the podcast,
Didn't get that part now.
okay. And I try not to do it on every episode, but the point was, and I'll make this quick, and we shut it down. My mom had the idea in the 90s. Her mother was born in 1908, passed away in the 90s. So can you imagine what she
That's
saw,
crazy.
what
That's
she
amazing.
saw in her lifetime?
Yeah.
You know, the change in the world. And my mom was always like, I wish I would have sat down with an audio recorder and just interviewed her and heard her stories.
Mhm.
My mom passed away last year. And it was the best way it could have happened. It was unexpected, but I got to spend the last 2 weeks of her life with her in the hospital. We got to say everything you want to say before they go, fuck, I'm going to do this again. Sorry. Anyway, when that happened, I was like, gosh damn it, I wish I would have recorded her. So I called it For Our Loved Ones because I want to interview people and just hear their story, you know, where they grew up, how they became who they are, the important people in their lives. And now it's so simple to capture it and and you can, instead of hearing stories about your loved ones, like your daughter, when you're gone, instead of hearing anecdotes from relatives, she can watch this and hear you talk about yourself.
Yeah.
I just think that's a gift. So
I
that's
think
why
that's
I
cool.
did this.
There's somebody who started offering a lifetime of hosting for your website. One company has now started to offer something that, or 100 years, they said.
Oh wow,
We will keep this live on the internet for you past your death.
that is so cool.
And they priced it out, and it's something you can buy now
That is really cool.
for posterity, right? And then
Yeah,
the other thing
absolutely.
that if you don't mind, before we wrap it up,
Yeah.
like here in this crazy futuristic world where we have the great promise of the internet, which is so often feels like a broken promise.
Yeah.
There's ways that you can choose how you would like to connect with people online and how you would like to share things with people online. And what I've discovered makes me happy is saying, fuck you, Mark Zuckerberg. I will not use your products. Everyone tells musicians you must use Meta products. If that's how you feel, then fuck off. And so I'm no longer on those. I've deactivated those things before and did it again the other day.
That's why Chelsea had to respond to me
Yes.
on the Facebook Messenger. Oh, it's all coming together. But
So-
go ahead. Go ahead.
I love Substack and I love YouTube. If I want to find something to watch or to listen to, I go to YouTube. If I want to
Okay.
find something to read, I go to Substack.
Yep.
If you want to know what I'm up to, because you're a person who either met me somewhere, is a friend or a family member or a friend of a friend, or you saw me play a gig, and you want, for some reason, to use the internet to know stuff about me, then look on Substack and look on YouTube. And if what you would prefer is for us to be in touch via Facebook or Instagram, then it's fine for us to just not be in touch. It's okay. We don't all have to be in touch with each other.
You're right.
My Facebook account that's deactivated has like 1,000 people connected to it. I have no fucking idea who they are, and I
Yeah.
don't really care who they are.
You're you're probably mentally healthier.
YouTube, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm twisted in plenty of ways, but that way at least things are going well right now. And then YouTube is like this fascinating environment, I think. And the experiment of capturing lots of video and reflecting on it and then trying to assemble it into something you feel good about presenting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process of observing myself and reflecting on things in a way that I'm hoping will help me improve as a human. And that other people who may stumble onto those materials may enjoy them or get something positive out of it. Or people who, for some reason, they already know me and they're like, what's Dan up to? I want to go stalk him online and check out what's up with my old buddy Dan. They'll find either read my Substack or watch my YouTube or listen to some of my music. And, you know, you go on Netflix, you try to pick out a movie to watch. They give you one sentence of description.
Right.
I used to go to the video store. I'm old. I used to go to the video store and look at cases and read 3 paragraphs about a bunch of different movies.
Right.
3 paragraphs about this movie.
Yes.
3 paragraphs about that movie for a little while, where I got a little more to chew on, right? And I'm not gonna live in a 1-sentence way.
What is it?
work.
144 characters on X now?
Whatever
Which
it
used to
is.
be Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I mean,
I get what
maybe
you're
for some
saying.
people that's their thing. Cool. It's not my thing. YouTube Shorts is a pleasant, extremely casual part of YouTube. It's their ripoff of TikTok, you know.
Oh,
And,
okay. That makes sense.
I hesitated to embrace it, but now that I'm all in on YouTube and Substack, it's not because I think I'm going to become a rich influencer. It's because if you want to see what I feel like sharing and connect with me, that's where I would prefer to do it.
Right.
If through some crazy fluke my YouTube channel does get big enough to generate income, I feel more like I know the rules of the game for that than I do about however
Right.
people make money getting big on Facebook or Instagram.
That
YouTube
totally
will
makes
tell you the
sense.
rules of the game.
Yes.
They'll tell you at this number of subscribers you can monetize with ads, whatever. It's very clear.
Yeah.
It's not, the rules of the game are not so hidden from you. Things
You're
that get big on
right.
Facebook and Instagram, they're conducted by a team of publicists who are highly paid.
You're right.
The same is often true of YouTube, but there are also YouTube channels that get big when it's just a guy doing stuff on his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. If you want small, bite-sized, random domestic updates, you look at my YouTube shorts, because that's where I put things like, here's my garden.
What is the
Here's
name of the YouTube channel?
It's just Dan Duval Musician.
Duval.
Yep.
Dan Duval Musician.
Yep.
Does the Moon Music have a YouTube channel?
No, so right now, all of Moon Music stuff is just on my channel, which soon we will make it its own channel, and then
Okay.
at that point, my YouTube will be everything except Moon Music.
Okay.
So on YouTube Shorts is where you'll see stuff that other people might put on their Facebook or Instagram, like my chickens, what I ate for lunch, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
You know, I like sharing that stuff too. I just hate Mark Zuckerberg. That's all.
I can kind of relate. I did. I have noticed as I've been. Your episode number 26.
Oh, that's awesome.
But as I I'll do the thing, upload it to YouTube, and then put it on Spotify. And then as I try to share the links on Facebook, I have noticed they limit exposure. It's like I'll try to share a link on you, and it'll eventually post, but it takes like a week and they always say, well, we're, checking it for disinformation or vulgarity or whatever. They pick and choose, because if I'm just sharing something and they're not making money off it, they don't necessarily want to give me exposure. But eventually people see it, but it takes a week or two before something, if I just share a link to one of my podcasts, it takes a while for anybody to see it, even my Facebook friends. So I understand what you're saying, where at least on YouTube, you know the rules.
A lot more than on Facebook or
Yes,
Instagram.
so I get it.
Of course, the YouTube algorithm still happens inside of a black box that I can't see inside of.
Right.
But it's something I don't have so many negative feelings about using. And it's something that I feel like it's free distribution for filmmakers. And I've always been a wannabe filmmaker. And I shoot video often and have a big archive, and I'm trying to reflect on that and improve how I do it. And then I have limited tools at my disposal, but I like the editing room, and there's an old thing that is a famous saying, editing is the soul of cinema. And it's so fun to be sitting there trying to, review your footage and try to assemble it into something that you think is cool.
Yeah.
And then you can put that up and distribute it for free and get feedback on it. And, it's a combination of things that I worked on for a while that had some editing and post-production. And sometimes it's also just like, this level of just hit record and go and then share.
Yeah.
The casual style, which is great too, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a home for all of that on YouTube.
There absolutely is. Dan, seriously, thank you so much. I'm assuming you just got a good vibe from me, because I'm like, this was so random, and you didn't vet me and just invited me to your house. So I really do appreciate that. I'm hoping you just got a good vibe off me. And
I'd like to point out that this is the second time I've done that for a podcaster that I didn't know at all.
Oh, really?
Because at one other gig that we played in Clackamas, this awesome restaurant called De Fuego Underground.
Okay.
A young man who I'd noticed him and his lady sitting in the audience, and they stayed the whole night and appeared to be enjoying themselves. And he had a Legend of Zelda Triforce tattoo on his hand, which I love. And we were chatting for a while, and he said, "Hey, I have a podcast, and we'd love to have you on the podcast and chat sometime."
And you did it.
And I also said, why not? Come on over. It was also that was the first time I invited a perfect stranger into my house to record a podcast.
So I'm number 2? I feel so special. All right, I'm going to hit stop. You have been so gracious, and I really appreciate your time.
Let's do it again.
This automatically gets converted to an MP4. I will upload it tonight, and I'll send you the links to everything.
Great.
So, cheers, man.
Thank you.